Hi, and welcome back to the Food Fund, where we analyze investing in food stocks. If you love food and love buying food stocks, beverage stocks, and restaurant stocks, you will love this channel. In this video we will be doing a deep dive on Glenn Welling's restaurant stock investments. We will also be exploring the portfolio changes of his hedge fund in the most recent quarter, so be sure to watch through the end of the video. Before we get started, please click the like button and let YouTube know that you like the content. Subscribe and click the notification bell to make sure you catch the latest videos. Your continued support means so much to the Food Fund. We have a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Cue the logo. You might not be super familiar with Glenn Welling, but he has quickly become a successful activist investor. With a background in investment banking and consulting, Welling made his name at Relational Investors, a $6 billion activist fund. After cutting his teeth there, he decided to strike out on his own and founded Engaged Capital, his current hedge fund, in 2012. Let's watch an excerpt from a recent interview where Welling shares his approach to activist investing.
That's why we launched Engaged. We'd all gotten too big to focus where we all started, which was helping small mid-cap companies figure out how to drive more value for their shareholders, and I decided to go back and do that. I guess the difference between my role as a consultant or a banker versus an investor is that as an investor I have a carrot and a stick. And as you know, as an advisor or a banker, you only have a carrot, right? If clients don't want to execute on the good advice you're providing, they can choose not to. It was frustrating for me often in the banking and the consulting role that we'd bring ideas for changes that we know would create billions of dollars of value, and for uneconomic reasons, you'd see managers make decisions that didn't necessarily correlate with shareholder value. And so the nice part of being investor, as being, one of the largest shareholders in our portfolio companies, and often a member of the board, is we don't just have that carrot. If in fact you make this decision, you will create a lot of wealth for shareholders and yourself. But we also have a stick, and that makes sure that we're able to get the value creation out of our investments.
What sets Welling and Engaged Capital apart is their focus on smaller companies. They're not chasing the big headlines like some of the other activist funds. Instead, they are finding undervalued gems in the small and mid-cap space. This gives them a unique opportunity to have a significant impact on these companies, and his background in investment banking and consulting clearly informs this approach. Glenn Welling's portfolio reflects his interest in smaller restaurant companies as well as other food and beverage stocks. If we look at Welling's portfolio starting in 2019, we see that Hain Celestial held the top position in his portfolio. Hain Celestial is a company that we have not covered on this channel. They produce natural focused foods. At that time, the company comprised 56% of Welling's $822 million portfolio. SunOpta, a plant-based food company, occupied a 3% position in the portfolio at the time. Over the next few years, Hain would remain the number one position in the portfolio, through shrinking to a 49% position in 2021, before selling out in 2022. A quarter earlier, Welling would open a position in Black Rifle Coffee. In early 2023, Welling would finally exit SunOpta and open a position in Shake Shack, the iconic burger restaurant. In the following clip, Welling describes what drove his Shake Shack investment.
Let's start with a company in our current portfolio that I think everybody on the podcast probably knows pretty well, Shake Shack. I find this one really interesting because it's such an iconic brand, and the fact that there actually still is, because we're very early in the process, so much operating performance improvements, right? In such an iconic and perceived to be really well-run brand, was really amazing to me when we first got involved, 12 to 18 months ago. The share price had halved, and many of the investors that we spoke to who invest in the restaurant space said the company was uninvestable because the team didn't understand the operational improvement opportunities that were in front of them, and were in fact And the company was actually telling investors, if you don't like what we were doing, go invest someplace else. And so, I learned in my consulting years that I can't fix a bad business, but I can fix a bad valuation of a good business. And it was clear that's what we had here. Um, and so it was fascinating to me that you had like an iconic restaurateur in Danny Meyer who developed this concept, hadn't realized how big the opportunity was to fix operations. And so, as they scaled, the team didn't know what to do. And so they made it up, and they never added any directors on the board or any executives with quick service or fast casual restaurant experience. And as a result, as the company scaled, margins and returns suffered, but the customer is still really happy with the product. The shareholders weren't happy with how much money the company was making and how much cash they were generating and what the returns are on the cash that was being invested.
From that point on, Welling would eventually sell down his Shake Shack position until the most recent quarter when it occupied a 4% position and Welling opened a position in the fan favorite Portillo's restaurant a quarter earlier. One of the things I really admire about Welling's approach is his emphasis on constructive engagement. He's not just about bashing management and demanding change. He's about working with companies to find solutions that benefit all shareholders. In the most recent quarter, Welling's portfolio is actually down from its peak value of $1.39 billion back in 2021 and is now valued at $584 million. It is unclear if this fall in value is due to a rising focus on short positions, which are not publicly reported, or redemptions from his investors. As we can see here, Black Rifle Coffee is his largest position at 13.5%. Portillo's is the 10th largest position at 4.6% and Shake Shack is now the 11th position at 4.1% of his portfolio. Diving in deeper into his individual positions, we see that Welling has largely held his Black Rifle Coffee position steady, trimming a bit in 2023. As he has sold off his other positions, the Black Rifle Coffee percentage of his portfolio has increased. For Portillo's, Welling began buying in 2024 and increased his position from 1,990,000 shares to 2,760,000 shares in the most recent quarter. My guess is that Welling will continue to ramp up his position in Portillo's at least until the share price surpasses his cost basis. For Shake Shack, the positioning reached its peak in 2023 with 1,866,000 shares, but Welling has been selling since. He now holds only 267,000 shares and I expect Welling will exit this position entirely soon. So what can we learn from Glenn Welling's food and restaurant stock moves? Well, for one, it's important to look beyond the big name companies. There are plenty of opportunities to be found in the small and mid-cap space. Small companies grow faster and are subject to more volatility. This means more opportunity to the upside but also more risk. It is also clear to me that Welling has recognized the changing consumer trend from food to restaurant spend and has made his investments accordingly. All in all, I think Glenn Welling is a good investor and I'm curious to see what he does with his Portillo's position. These portfolio reviews are super insightful for me and I hope you find the same value from videos on this channel. Many thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on Glenn Welling and his food and restaurant investments over the years? Please share your thoughts below. It is always great to hear from you. Please check out some more videos right now and don't forget to put your money where your mouth is.